In this application note, we're going to talk about how to create a multi-language GUI. It's really easy in SHIPTide. So, let's start with a very simple project, just one page, white background. We've set the text color at the display level to black, so all of our text is going to be black. And we've got one font in our font selection. We've chosen UME plus P Gothic because it's an open source public domain font with lots and lots and lots of characters in there. The Chinese character set, Japanese, all kinds of good characters in there. We only got the basic extended ASCII and trademark symbol as code points, but we're going to let SHIPTide auto add all the characters that we need. So we don't need to specify all of them. These are the ones that we guarantee will be available by specifying these code points. If you haven't already watched the video on fonts and code points, you should do that first before watching this video. Okay. Let's add a text node in the home page here, and let's just give it a value of hello, of welcome. And let's just center it first. If I can click this right, here we go. Okay. Standard piece of text. Now, I'll call that immediate text or text right on the text node. Now, that's not translatable automatically here in the GUI. What we want to do is have a system where we can change, let's say, one variable globally, and all of a sudden all the text in the GUI changes automatically at runtime. So if you have a setting page somewhere where they can choose their language, they pick the right language, and all of a sudden your GUI just magically transforms and is in that language. That's what you'd like. So let me show you how to do that. Go into your, instead of using immediate kind of in the node text resources, right in the layout area, create a resource. So let's add a new piece of text over in the resource area instead. And let's just put the lowercase t in front of the name so we know in various places that it's a piece of text. So let's call it t welcome. And let's give it the text welcome, just like we had before. Okay, so now we've got a text resource called t welcome over here. So let's go back to our text node, get rid of that text there. If you have any text there, it's going to override what we're going to do next. And I'm going to attach the t-welcome object to this text node. And you see, there comes the welcome. So what's happened here? Let's step through what happened. This text node in the layout area says I want to refer to or pull in this resource t-welcome. The value of the resource t-welcome is welcome. So this is at runtime going to display the word welcome in English. Now, in the resource area, if I right-click, I can add something called an alternate. That's an alternate language. So, the form of languages is a 4-character sequence. The first 2 digits are the language, and the second 2 digits are what country that language is written in. So, for instance, I grew up in Canada. We write color a little differently. So if we wanted to have color, I might have the English EN, meaning English, CA, meaning Canada, version of the word color versus the ENUS, English as written in the US version of the word color, which has no U in it. In this case, what I'm going to do is I would like to include the Spanish as spoken in Mexico translation. So that's ES, which is the 2-letter international code for Spanish. And our SeriousIntegrated.com/docs wiki has a list of all these languages and some resources where you can find out what these codes are. And ESMX, as in Mexico. So I'm going to give, that's the alternate language. Now we've got an alternate here, but we haven't filled in the value. So the way to do that, of course, is to use our trusty Google Translate, and I'm going to put the word welcome in here, and I'm going to translate to Spanish, which is bienvenida, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to my value, and I'm just going to paste that in. I'm going to change that to a capital letter. Okay, so now I have the Spanish version. I'm going to go back and click here, and I'm going to add yet another alternate, and in this case I'm going to add JAJP, which is Japanese as spoken in Japan, written in Japan. And I'm going to go back to my Google Translate, and I'm going to just change this to Japanese. And there are the characters for welcome. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to my GUI, and I'm going to paste it. Control V, paste. There we go. Okay, now I have the Japanese, Spanish, and English translations, with the English being the default. Now, at runtime, depending on the value of a global variable, it's a built-in global variable called ship language. All one word, lowercase, ship language. That variable, if it's set to any of these codes, let's say it's set to JAJP, all of the JAJP translations that are available in the alternates will appear. If there's no JAJP translation, so if I create a new piece of text and it's T goodbye, and there is no translation for Japanese there, it will default back to the English translation or whatever the root translation or the root word is. If there is a translation, it will use it. If there's not, it won't, depending on the current ship language setting. So, for instance, if I quickly create two buttons, let's add a new box, and I'm going to add another box, add a new box, and in this box I'm going to add a piece of text, and this text is going to be English, and I'm going to make this box so give me a minute here, and I'm going to create two buttons. I'm going to create a button on the left and called English. I'm going to create a button on the right called well, I wouldn't put the word Japanese because Japanese people wouldn't be able to read the word Japanese in English. So I'm going to go back to my Google Translate, and I'm going to type the word Japanese, and I'm probably going to get the Japanese, the wrong one here. I want the Japanese language, and I'm not sure which one that is, so I'm going to pick that one and just copy it. Sometimes it's not obvious which one you want in Google Translate, but let's put the word Japanese there. And I'm going to make this, put this in this text box over here, and this text box over here I'm going to make and I'm going to put it on the right side, H line, right. Okay, so I've got basically two boxes, and I've in this case, I'm trying to basically create two buttons. You press the English, you press the Japanese. Obviously, we can get a lot fancier than this. Now, the key here is how to select that language, and that's a standard listener. And if you've watched how to create buttons, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here. Touch 0.event.e. I'm going to wait for that to be a touchdown. And then I'm going to add a script in here. And this script is going to be very simple. When I'm pressing on this one, I want the system to go into Japanese. So, ship language, again, that built-in variable, equals, quote, JAJP, just like that. And we'll save that script. And then I'm going to take this script, this listener script, I'm going to put it under this other button right here. And in this case, I want to go to English, so I'm going to change to ENUS. Okay, so basically what I've done, I've created two buttons. They're ugly looking, but I've created two buttons. One, when you press it, this English button, the script is going to run, and it's going to set the global ship language variable to ENUS. The other, this Japanese one, when you press it, it's going to set that global ship language variable to JAJP. If you build this GUI and export it to your device, what will happen is it will come up in English, or whatever the current ship language is that's set. That's a persistent variable. Across reboots, it will be remembered. And that language, it will automatically find this welcome, will come up first in English, and then if you choose Japanese, it will automatically, welcome will automatically change to be this piece of text. Now, the goodbye, if we had used that on a text down here somewhere, it would not translate, obviously. There's no translation available. And if they went back and pressed the English side, it would then show welcome. There's no way in this GUI currently to get at the Spanish translation. You'd have to add another button or selector or a menu where you could pick from all the available languages you want to expose. So let's recap. In order to create a multi-language GUI automatically, create text resources as opposed to adding the text directly in the text nodes. In those resources, add your default language as the piece of text in the text node, and then go in and add alternates. And in the alternates, you're going to use the 4-letter code that you can find on our website or on the web. You just look for 2-character international codes, and you add those character codes, ES as in Spanish, as written in Mexico or spoken in Mexico, JAJP, Japanese as written in Japan, EN, US, English as written and spoken in the US, and so on. And you set up your various translations, use your favorite Google Translate, and then maybe use a professional translator to make sure that you've got all your alternates filled in. And then in your GUI, somehow, somewhere in one of your menus, you don't have to, you can pick however you want to do it in your GUI, set up some buttons or a menu where they choose the language. All you have to do is change the word ship language, the built-in variable, to that 4-letter code, and wherever those translations are available, all the text that's in your GUI will automatically refresh and display in the correct language. Now, because we've got these as resources, if for some reason the characters that you need, like the ones we had in the Japanese here, are not available in the font that you've chosen, or the font code points that you've selected, which these aren't, and when you export your GUI, it will actually automatically add them. If you look at this line right here, 5 code points were automatically added. Those are those Japanese characters and maybe a few others in the GUI that weren't part of my list here that are now, well, there's this one, this one, this one, there's 3, and if I go down here, there's 2 more. So all 5 of those symbols were not in the font as I originally specified it. It's automatically added that to the bitmap for us.